spirit of hesitation. In a small village, there used to be a popular inn. However, there was a terrible rumor at the inn. There was a deep forest near the inn, and it was said that there was an existence called spirit of wandering living in the forest. No one had ever seen the spirit, so the villagers were wondering whether to believe it or not, but many of the guests who stayed at the inn had strange experiences. One night, a young couple stayed at an inn. They were in the middle of their honeymoon and were especially fascinated by the beauty of the inn. After dinner, the two changed into a yukata and decided to take a walk around the inn. Under the moonlight, when I looked up, the sky was full of stars, and they kept walking for a while. However, when I approached near the forest, the wind suddenly became strong and the trees began to buzz. They stepped into the forest without worrying about anything. When she said, "Let's explore a little," he said, "Let's go back soon," but she proceeded to the depths of the forest. He had no choice but to follow her. The forest was wrapped in a strange silence. After a while, they went out to a small clearing. In the center of it stood an old stone monument. Inexplicable letters were engraved on the stone monument, and the two of them stared at it. "What is this?" she said, and as she approached, suddenly, a cold wind blew through from behind. She was surprised and turned around, but she couldn't see anything. "Let's go back," he said, and the two of them tried to leave the place. However, the surrounding scenery suddenly began to change. It's supposed to be on the same road, but the road changes like a maze. Driven by anxiety, she said, "Something's wrong," I shouted. He took her hand in a hurry and desperately looked for an exit. At that time, he felt a sign of something. When I looked back, I saw something like a shadow approaching from behind them. "Hurry up," he screamed, and the two of them started running with all their strength. However, the forest became deeper and deeper, and the surroundings became more and more confused. They lost their direction and couldn't even speak, so they just kept running away. Eventually, the two exhausted people came back to that stone monument again. At that moment, a cold hand touched her shoulder from behind. He looked back, but there was no one there. "When I look at her with eyes full of fear, she is standing expressionless. What will happen from now on?" he said fearfully. However, she didn't answer anything, and her expression gradually changed. Her eyes became expressionless, and it was as if her soul had fallen out. He was shrunk with fear. "Please come back," he screamed, but she didn't move. And suddenly, the surroundings became dark and wrapped in deep darkness. The next time he woke up, he was in the room of the inn. If you look around, she's nowhere to be found. When I asked the person at the inn, he said that a few days before he came, there was a customer who got lost in this forest and went missing. His heart was tightened, and he was at a loss for words. In the end, he left the village and tried not to remember the trip again, but the fear of that day and her expressionlessness burned in his heart. And he decided never to tell the story to anyone so that no one would remember her. Even now in the village, every time someone gets lost in the forest, it will be handed down as a story of fear that remains in his heart. The end.